Hi, Mike Kennedy, M005 Kennedy with you today, and we're talking about the Spiratone 400mm preset lens. Now, this is a lens from a while ago, so I want to explain it. First of all, I want to say something about Spiratone. Spiratone was a company that just had all kinds of stuff. They were for a while one of the largest supplier of photographic goods in the United States, of equipment, at least of secondary equipment, let's say, other than they didn't usually actually sell cameras. They sold lenses and film developing tanks and everything to go with it. So here we're highlighting this lens. I always wanted one of these lenses, and my brother recently gave it to me. He had one. He went completely film, completely digital, so he had no use for this. Now, of course, me, I have, this is a T, I'm going to have to explain a couple concepts here, okay? This is a T-mount lens. In other words, the lens just has some screw threads here, right? And in Maine, we have tons of mosquitoes. So remember that if you ever come here. Bring bug repellent. So I have a T adapter here. I have one for my Konica film camera, and I also have one for my Canon digital camera. And for the ease of doing this video, we're going to stick with the digital, because then I can just show you the results afterwards. Now, what's interesting about this lens, okay, we have T-mount. So you can see right there, the thing I'm mentioning here is the T adapter allowed you to use this lens on multiple cameras if you had multiple camera bodies, but probably people wouldn't have as many multiple camera bodies, as the idea is this lens could be produced very cheaply. I think back at the time it was made, it was $69. Now that was still a lot of money, because I think back then, I'm thinking now, in the early 70s, I was selling shoes at Jordan Marsh, which is now Macy's, and I think I was making $135 commission against draw. So my the base pay was $100, and I would make a commission against draw. I'd make about $35 more a week, and for a single person I thought that was pretty good at the time. So here you have this lens, $69, so maybe that was half a week's pay. But then, okay, this was significantly lower priced than any brand name. In other words, Spiratone had these made for them. They weren't made by Canon, they weren't made by Nikon, they weren't made by Konica. So it made it inexpensive to buy. Then you'd buy this little gadget. These used to be about $15. Now you can, the thing is now is these things can all be picked up quite cheaply, because people think incorrectly sometimes. Of course you can use them for film cameras, and my goodness, if you're not using film, you should go back and try film. You know, that's all I can say. You should know better. There's some things that film is just great for. Okay, so, but we have an adapter like this. We can use this camera with a digital camera. Yeah, we lose, there's no electrical contacts here. We lose all the automatic features. We have to focus manually. We can still use the aperture priority to let the camera set the film speed. But even then, I've noticed with this we have a problem, which I'm going to mention. And that problem is that I find that this lens on my digital camera, and I noticed too, to a certain extent, when I did some testing on my film camera, the results come out overexposed. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to take some more pictures with this today, and I'm going to set my camera at a film speed of 200 like I did for my previous pictures, but I'm then going to underexpose it by one stop. And you should understand how to do that with your camera. You should understand how to underexpose it. Now let's look at some of the accessories we have with this. Of course we have the T-mount. We're going to put that back on, so it will mate with our camera. And let's look at this lens. we have a tripod mount. That's really a nice feature. Lenses like this, you remember you should use the, there's a rule that basically says to get pictures of acceptable sharpness, you take the focal length and put it under 1, and that tells you how fast the shutter speed has to be to get good pictures with some practice. So in other words, this is 400 millimeters. So normally that means on a film camera that, you know, have integrated steps, you have to go to 1/500th of a second. So you could take pictures with this at 1/500th of a second handheld and have them come out decent. But pictures always come out sharper with a tripod, and also because of the design of this, we want to use a tripod as well. Now, the second feature we're going to talk about this that is really odd is it's a preset lens. Well, what's a preset lens? Well, preset means this lens, and again, this lens is made to get some kind of image that is good and get it cheaply. So it's f6.3 to f32. If you were to buy a brand name one of these lenses back then, it might have had an f5.6 or f4 opening, which would gather a lot more light, and thus would need a lot more correction, a lot more elements. This actually has only one piece of glass in it. It has one lens in it, that's all. There are no other, the rest of this is empty space. So they've kind of basically said, okay, this lens is going to be total failure at f4, so we're not even going to offer that. We're going to make it an f6.3 lens. So we're going to get closer so you can see this. Okay, now we're looking at the lens itself, and you can see there's this ring that moves, and there's the f-stop numbers. This is what you had set with a film camera. So many people now are so used to digital that they don't understand what's going on. But your two variables in exposure are your f number that controls depth of field, how much light enters the camera, and then the camera, the shutter back here, takes care of the length of time, okay? So what you find is, let's say we've decided we're out here on a bright day and we can take an exposure at 1/200th of a second at f11, and but what we find immediately when we look through this lens and it's stopped down, let's see if we can actually see when I do that. Oh, you can see it. Let's try it this way. See how it gets bigger or smaller? But when you stop this lens down to f11, you can hardly see through it. You can't accurately focus. It gets dimmer and dimmer. Now, it is true some of the digital cameras have focus confirmation lights that you can use, but it's going to be difficult. So what they developed is, rather than having the automatic aperture, which would have made a linkage necessary through the camera, through the lens, and through this T adapter, which would have been different for every camera, they said, let's forget it. And we have a open position and a closed position, so that we open the lens up to focus it, which is opening it up to its maximum aperture, 6.3, and before we take the picture, we slide it back down to the that turns it to f11, and then you take your picture. So there you have it. That's the preset concept. So here we have the oddity there. Also, we're going to talk about two other accessories with this. One accessory that's extremely important in my point of view, which is missing from just about everyone's digital camera 90% of the time, is a lens hood, a decent lens hood. This came with a lens hood. You can see this is 72 millimeter thread. You can see how deep that is. Well, that gives you a chance of light not striking this element the single element, which is going to vastly degrade the image quality. So lens hoods are very important. I'm shooting this video with the PowerShot AE 400 IS HD Canon, okay? Well, it's got no lens hood. I guarantee you, well, let's even try. I don't know if this will work. If I put this lens hood over the camera like that, I bet if I shot like that most of the time, that I'd actually get superior color and saturation. Okay, so anyway, now here's another concept that okay, inexpensive lens, one of the things they've sacrificed, focuses at affinity, of course, but it only focuses down in feet. It only goes down to, well, it says 30 feet here, but it says 8 meters, I don't know, maybe 7 meters, so maybe this will focus down to 21 feet. So sometimes people like to do close-ups. So what is really nice with this lens that came as an option, which my brother had the foresight to get, is a 60 millimeter close focusing extension tube. And again, all it is a piece of pipe, really, you know, black, with threads on either end. We're going to be able to thread that on. There we go. And then we're going to put our T adapter back on, and voila, all of a sudden we have a camera that we can take close-ups. And what I'm going to do is take some close-ups. We have a couple lilies that have bloomed in the garden, and I'm going to take a close-up of them with this mounted on the tripod. Okay, I have an older, you know me, I had money once when I bought this. I have a Canon Rebel XT. When I bought it, they didn't have the stabilization. My lens broke, I got a new lens for it. But what I want to highlight here is the importance of being able to use the information on the back of the camera. Okay, we're going to look at the back of this camera to determine what it can tell us. And I've got it set on close-up. You notice the image is dark, but that's so we can see the images when I bring it up. Okay, now look at this, if we can see it well enough. Here we have all our exposure information. We have no F number because the lens wasn't coupled, but look at this histogram. You can see that there's a peak that goes way up and is chopped. Well, a peak that's chopped is telling you one or two things. You're not recording all of the information, you're washed out, or you might have some extremely bright area in the picture. Well, looking at this picture, we know that's not the case. We don't have an extremely bright area, so we know that this picture is underexposed. Now we're just going to go through some pictures here that we took while we're out there, and we're going to compare some of the different histograms. You can see these are all like that. So we're underexposed. Now, look at this one. We return to more of a mountain shape. Okay, dear, well, in just a second. I'm just going to film something, then I'll do it, okay? Now, in this one, you can see more of a mountain shape. That's telling us that we're closer in exposure. We still have some of the peaks being cropped. Let's see, we're getting more information on the area. We've kind of got washed out itis here with some of the pictures with the lens here. here we have one that's correct. This one, we've done it one stop under. It's the yellow flower. There's not a lot of light in the background, so the light meter isn't as confused. But see here on the histogram that none of the peaks are chopped. Now someone could argue that it should be spread out more, but that's giving us an idea that the image is exposed correctly. Now of course with film, we'd be doing a film test. We'd be doing a calibration. And I know I had a Sigma zoom lens, 80 to 200 once for my Konica, and for some reason it was exactly one f-stop off. So what I would do is just change the ASA of the film each time I put that lens on, and it worked perfectly. But one should always think about calibrating their system. Let's keep going. Ah, there we go. See, these yellow flower ones are much more towards what we want for exposure. Oh, there's a little bit of peak being cut off. Now see, we've gone to, you probably can't see, but now we're on zero compensation and we start cutting the peaks off again. So here we can tell, I would say, that this image needs to be underexposed by 1 or 2 stops from what the reading said in this particular camera with that particular lens on. So that's one way to use a histogram.